of turning back and unraveling this plan of global consolidation. And, of course, Donald Trump is another part of that issue as well, but that's going to be a few months from now. Brexit is coming up next week, and already we see in panic, we see the German banks have dropped into negative interest rates for the first time ever. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's going on with the polls and Brexit just a week away from that election, whether or not Britain is going to leave the European Union or not, as well as looking at the next step. You see, if you don't start to break down the European Union and these other economic trade groups that they've put together, that's the way they pull together and take away your sovereignty. First, they take away the control of your economy with these economic agreements, because these aren't simply free trade agreements. Anybody that sells you that, as we have been talking about this for a very long time, anybody says this is free trade is simply lying to you. Senator Sessions laid it out for people. He laid it out for Donald Trump, who understands this. We've talked about this multiple times. This is about global consolidation. First, they consolidate you economically. Then they control your economy outside of your country. Then they create crises. In response to those crises, they say, well, now we need to take further sovereignty away from you. So we're going to take a look at how the TPP is being used by the bankers to consolidate control and what they will do if this doesn't start to unravel. See, if Britain leaves, it's going to kick off a lot of referenda from a lot of different countries in the European Union that aren't being served by this, that understand they're getting a bad deal. We're also going to talk about some banker suicides. It's not just interest rates that are falling. We got actual bankers who are falling out of windows. Very interesting story. Of course, we covered this when it started happening a couple of years ago, all the rash of bankster suicides. Now the mainstream media is talking about it. Very interesting story from the New York Post that goes into the details of one of these particular suicides. I think you'll find that very interesting. Now, Alex was talking about this article we have on Infowars.com from Zero Hedge. Saudi Arabia has funded 20% of Hillary's presidential campaign. This is a claim from the Saudi crown prince. Not the clown prince, the Saudi crown prince, okay? And by the way, it should be illegal for them to do this, but of course, being illegal is never a hindrance to Hillary Clinton. And when we look at the extraordinary influence that foreign governments have, and of course, they always go to the people who have the most to gain by controlling us, people like the Saudis or people like the Chinese. That's where the Clintons go to raise their funds because that's where they can multiply their leverage, okay? And as we're in the middle of Ramadan, as we've been reminded by this terrorist attack, remember that a couple of years ago, there was a lot of consternation about the fact that Obama had Ramadan ceremonies within the White House. You know, he wasn't the first one to do that. The first one to do that was Hillary Clinton. February 1996, the end of Ramadan. It's the Eid celebration. I guess that's how you pronounce it, E-I-D. I'm not Muslim, if you might have guessed, okay? She comes out and she says, this is an historic occasion, the first EID celebration ever at the White House, okay, to celebrate the end of Ramadan. That was in 1996. Subsequent to that, they held it every year in the Clinton White House. And then, of course, George Bush kept up the tradition through all the Bush years. See, it's not just a Democrat thing. You got people like the Bushes who are in the pocket of the Saudis as well. And, of course, it was Republicans and Henry Kissinger, it was Nixon and Kissinger, who put the Saudis in the catbird seat as far as our currency is concerned. Remember Bretton Woods II? They said, we're not going to be on the gold standard anymore. Instead, we got this new deal. We got the petrodollar. We are going to, we've worked out this deal with the Saudis. They're going to prop up our currency by valuing all the oil in dollars, and then they agree to buy all these T-bill notes from us. And in exchange, we're going to do everything we can to keep the Saudi family in power. Now we see, as we've got the 9/11 report, the secret 28 pages, is there's been an effort for 15 years by the people who were leaders in the Senate, and we've got congressmen and senators saying we need to release this information. The American public needs to know what Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11 was. We have the CIA chief, Brennan, going to Saudi Arabia, going on Saudi television and assuaging their fears. after the Saudis have threatened to blackmail us. They're clearly afraid of what might be revealed, but don't worry. Brennan, the CIA director, is going to cover for you just like Hillary Clinton. That's the criminals in the White House in the pockets of the Saudis and the other Muslims. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host on this fourth hour, Tuesday, June 14th, 2016. We've got a great report from our reporter, John Bound, on the Orlando shooting that we're going to go to in just a moment. Before we do, I wanted to read you something from probably my closest friend back in North Carolina. He's had some health issues, and so we talked to him about doing some things like liver cleanse. He took that diet for several days and used liver cleanse, and he just sent me an update. He said, hey, I just want to give you guys an update. I'm feeling pretty amazing. I think this is what it must be to feel young again. I think the liver cleanse is the single best, fastest thing I've done for my health that has made the most perceptible difference in how I feel. He said that's even more significant because it's in spite of a bad cold and arrhythmia. He's suffering from some heart arrhythmia. As a matter of fact, he's being monitored right now to see what the issue is. He says, I lost 6 or 7 pounds, could definitely see it in my face. Still, the primary benefit is in how I feel. Or maybe the weight loss is part of feeling lighter. But I wonder how much is water weight that would come back after resuming regular eating. I don't know. But I got to believe my liver can metabolize better without so many stones clogging it. So that's a personal friend of mine who's done the liver cleanse and is very happy with it. As a matter of fact, he's tried several supplements that we sell and is very happy with it, as I am. I use all this stuff as well. That's one of the reasons why we encouraged him to try that. Also, I want to let you know that we have at the InfoWars store a sale now on the Alexa Pure water filters. 20% off at the InfoWarsStore.com. All Alexa Pure water filters are now 20% off, and this is just for a limited time. From the super high-quality gravity-fed Alexa Pure Pro water filtration system to the shower filters. Now is the time to stock up for the lowest price. And again, gets rid of 99.9999%. There you go, Herman Cain. That's 99.999% of bacteria, disinfectants, volatile organic contaminants, and hormones. But this is for real. His tax plan wasn't, but this filter system is. You can get this now, all these filter products, like I said, from the gravity-fed large, the biggest system, all the way down to the shower filters, 20% off all Alexa Pure water filters at InfoWarsStore.com for a limited time only. Let's go to this report from John Bound, Orlando. America under attack by its own government.
Wee hours of June 12th, 29-year-old Omar Mateen, a registered Democrat, unleashed a jihad attack on the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, killing 49 and wounding 53 in the worst mass killing event in U.S. history.
Well, what Rodney, who's my friend who was a bartender that got shot 3 times, said in his own words is that when he was there, he specifically witnessed the assailant coming in. He saw that this guy... He didn't think he was going to be a threat. He just saw him coming in. So then moments after that, pulls out a rifle with semi-automatic capabilities, and it was shooting, big caliber bullets. As soon as that happens, he literally hears the sound of bullets hitting people's skin, bullets piercing flesh, bullets breaking bones, people screaming, people crying, people in pandemonium. The other guy said that there was bodies dropping everywhere. And that the thing what Rodney said that was so crazy to him is that the person that he was serving in front of him, the person he was bartending with, died in front of him.
The amount of gunshots, and you were trying to find out, I believe that there was more, yes, because...
So you believe there was more than one gunman there?
I believe that.
Omar Mateen, a U.S.-born citizen, had gradually self-radicalized. He had abused his first wife, yet no charges were filed. Unhinged behavior was reported by co-workers, but ignored because he was Muslim. And Mateen was interviewed by the FBI 3 times, but never put on any kind of list. He also traveled to Saudi Arabia twice to visit Mecca. Mateen worked as a security officer for a major DHS contractor as counter-jihad reports. The Orlando nightclub terrorist who pledged allegiance to ISIS worked almost a decade for a major Department of Homeland Security contractor, raising alarms that ISIS sympathizers and agents have infiltrated the federal agency set up after 9/11 to combat terrorists. G4S uses fortified buses buses to transport hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants from city to city and from cities to the U.S.-Mexican border. But earlier this month, Judicial Watch revealed G4S has been quietly moving and releasing van loads of illegal aliens away from the border to interior American cities. The security contractor also provides security guards and other security services for 90% of U.S. nuclear facilities. If anyone was a perfect candidate for being put on a watch list by the FBI or the DHS, it was Omar Mateen. Even his father is suspect, who pretended to be president of Afghanistan and also said gays should be killed. And the local imam in the Islamic community Mateen was a part of called for the death of gays.
Death is the sentence. I mean, look, there's nothing to be embarrassed about this. Death is the sentence.
The same mosque that Hillary Clinton herself blocked from being investigated. Kit Daniels writes, the Fort Pierce Islamic Center, where Mateen worshipped several times a week, was under investigation by both the FBI and the DHS as early as 2011 for ties to a worldwide Islamic movement known as Tablighi Jamal, which was linked to several terrorist organizations. But according to WorldNet Daily, the investigation was shut down under pressure from the Clinton-ran State Department and DHS's Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Office out of fear of offending Muslims, according to recently retired DHS agent Philip Haney. And now, Omar's brother-in-law is mocking our Second Amendment rights with his liberal swill posted on social media. Mateen's brother-in-law, Mustafa Abbasin, even went so far as to call Trump a Nazi and a racist. Breitbart reports, based on 2014 data, the most recent available data from the Department of Homeland Security, the number of green cards issued to Middle Eastern countries increased by 32%. The number of green cards issued to Afghan migrants increased by 379% in the course of that single year. Hillary Clinton has made clear that under a Clinton presidency, these numbers will grow substantially higher. Based on the minimum numbers Clinton has put forth thus far, the U.S. will resettle 730,000 permanent migrants from the Muslim world during her first term alone, adding up to be larger than the population of Washington, D.C.
Today marks the most deadly shooting in American history. The shooter was apparently armed with a handgun and a powerful assault rifle. This massacre is therefore a further reminder of how easy it is for someone to get their hands on a weapon that lets them shoot people in a school or in a house of worship or a movie theater or in a nightclub.
It only took 3 minutes for Obama to basically blame the American people. What would a real president have said? Take President Eisenhower, for instance. He would have simply told Americans to arm themselves under the Second Amendment. And now Obama has the nerve to call it homegrown terrorism.
As far as we can tell right now, this is certainly an example of the kind of homegrown extremism that all of us have been so concerned about for a very long time.
Obama, there is nothing even remotely resembling American values or culture in this attack. Stop using homegrown terror for your sound bites. You're clearly blaming the American people for beliefs that originate in the Middle East. They are not grown here at home. This new benchmark of the brutal slaughter of Americans on American soil is a clear indication that the FBI, DHS, and federal government are not only unable to do the job our tax dollars are funding, bottom line, they are growing the radical Islamic invasion. How about that for homegrown, Obama?
Carlos the Jackal wrote a foreword to an Islamist book recently from prison. Of course, they let him do that. You know, he's got a suite in prison. And it says that only a coalition of Islamist and socialist forces can defeat the United States. And in the Obama administration, we get a twofer. We've got them both covered, raised by Frank Marshall Davis in Hawaii, the communist, and then trained in madrasa schools. So we've got both of them in one, folded together in one. After the Benghazi attack, there were hearings at the State Department. A State Department official came out with a quote that should be in everybody's mind. The Taliban is inside the building. He was referring to Huma Abedin, Valerie Jarrett, and others who are allied closely with the Muslim Brotherhood. When Obama came in, he had all of the law enforcement and intelligence agency doctrines and training methods purged of any mention of Islamic jihad. Imagine trying to fight World War II, but you were not